Hello everyone, welcome to the Recruiters Hangout, hashtag Rechangout. I'm Louis Welcomme from Colleague Software. Today's topic is how should recruiters be using search engines to attract candidates? We are joined by our usual host today. Well, we're not joined by our usual host. We don't have Alan Whitford here today. He is in the US and it's a bit too early for him, I think. And so we've got Mark Stevens here from the F10 Group as always, who will be leading the conversation today. Louise Triance will be keeping on our hashtag Rechangout on Twitter for your questions and comments. Please do get in touch. I will also be keeping an eye on the Q&A app on Google+. If any of you are watching on Google+, please use the app and sending your questions. I'm joined by our two guests today, René, a Sales Director at OnRecruit, and Adam from Enhanced Media, who will be discussing this topic. Mark, I'll hand over to you to sort of introduce the topic and kick things off. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. Good afternoon, everybody. And should be an interesting show today, given that we are in the world of new technology. And today's topic looking at how recruiters could be using search engines to attract more candidates. So before we go into the detail, it'd be nice to get a brief introduction from our two guests today. So if Adam, you would like to kick off and introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what your organisation does.
Yeah, sure. My name's Adam Thornton. I'm an account director at Enhanced Media. We're a company that specialises in digital recruitment marketing, working across channels including SEO, PPC, social media and web design. We also work with our client base to design content, careers pages, as well as portals. And we also deliver candidate engagement surveys. Another part of our service offering is we also own and operate NORAS, which stands for National Online Recruitment Audience Survey, which is the largest piece of online recruitment research in the world. We work with a wide range of clients, including direct employers such as Boots, Virgin and KPMG, as well as job boards and recruitment consultants. Our aim is to make it easier for candidates to apply for our clients' vacancies, and our ethos is very much about using data-led marketing strategy, using insights from our large research sources to deliver highly relevant candidates through to applying for roles.
Sounds good. Thanks, Adam. And René, good afternoon.
Hi, good.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is René. I'm from a technology company in Holland, which is called OnRecruit. We have a technology that helps employers and large agencies to attract, to automate pay-per-click advertising for jobs. So we help employers and agencies to attract more traffic to their actual and relevant content in their own website. And we offer them also a dashboard in which they can manage and optimize and monitor these campaigns that we have automated for them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, both of you. So the question today is, how can search engines play a more important role in the candidate attraction process? So maybe we should get a kick off with Adam, if you'd like to give us your insights into why you think search engines should play a more important role in candidate attraction.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the first place to start is that, to clarify that search engines are a huge part of the process. Although we have seen an emergence of people coming in via social media, we tend to find, and all of our research points to the fact that search engines are normally the first step in the process of that people take towards finding a new role. If we look at some of the data trends from our clients, on the whole, we normally expect to see at least 55% of traffic coming from direct sources, with around 25% coming from PPC sources. So, of course, they're the two main arms of search marketing. Of course, it does depend on your objectives as to how you're using search engines for to market your roles. Sorry, how you market roles, but yeah, to bring that around full circle, search engines are a huge part of the process.
So do we know what sort of percentage of candidates start a search using a Google search, for example?
It depends. It depends on the audience. It depends on the age of the audience. It depends on which sector that they work in. Our research tends to point towards an average of about, as I say, 55–60% of candidates will use search engines to apply for roles. So it still represents the largest majority amongst all the different attraction channels that we use.
Okay, still a big chunk. Okay, René, yeah, come in there.
Yeah, I was at a conference 2 weeks ago in Amsterdam where one of the speakers was saying, don't be afraid of low-hanging fruit. And I think search engines are one of the examples of low-hanging fruit in recruitment. If you just look at the data, for example, from aggregators, in the UK, I believe last year, JobRapido had 3 million unique visitors per month. Indeed, had 9 million unique visitors per month. Sorry to say this way, but it's just stupid if you don't use that. So that's what I would like to add.
Absolutely. So, I mean, let's get right into the crux of this then. Where are recruiters going wrong? What are recruitment companies not doing that they should be doing to attract candidates from the search engines? Is it all about advertising? Is it about optimization? Is it about content, keywords?
Yeah, so the first thing to understand for the audience, I think, is that if you don't know that yet, is that search engines mainly exist of two parts. And one of the parts is organic results, which are the normal results that you get because the search engines know this information because they're constantly crawling the internet. And then B, you have the sponsored links, like Google. You have Google AdWords, sponsored listings on the top and on the right of the page, and that's the same in the job aggregators. So there's of course two things that you have to manage. First, I would always say manage your organic postings. So in Google, of course, this has a lot to do with SEO. So the technique you're using, the content you're writing, etc. But then in the aggregators, a lot of people are not even aware of the fact that they can manage the organic listings in aggregators. So a lot of times you hear recruiters or candidates complaining about the fact that in aggregators you find old content. So you're looking for a job, you find a job, you click on it, and the link is dead. Why is this? Well, very simple. Aggregators don't have the server space to spider your website every hour or something, but your jobs do change every hour. So what you should do first in terms of getting your relevant content in the organic postings of the aggregators is give them a direct feed, which is most of the times an XML feed, with your current job. So they will stop spidering you and just use that feed. And another thing that's quite relevant for a lot of companies at the moment is they don't want all their jobs to be found organically in all the search engines because they just end up getting too much applicants for some jobs. So you can even say, okay, I'm going to give them a feed with the jobs, but I'm going to exclude some types of jobs. So that's one of the biggest things I would do when I would start looking into how I would improve my use of search engines.
Okay, well that sounds really interesting. Just a quick question on that. Do you think that Indeed and Trovit and JobRapido prioritise the jobs that have been paid for over and above the jobs that have been found through the aggregation services, their scraping and spidering?
Well, it's quite simple. They're doing the same thing as Google. So they are spidering jobs, they're promoting those in the organic listings, and then you can pay for getting promoted in the sponsored listings. So that's two complete separate things that don't have any influence on each other.
Okay, great. So there was some really good stuff that came out there. So if you are a recruitment company, so getting an XML feed so that when you post your jobs, they actually go out into these search engines, into these aggregators, so that we actually take advantage of the aggregators' ability to win in the search results within the search engines themselves. Because
Correct.
Obviously when you run a search, 9 times out of 10 Indeed is in the first, second or third spot in the natural results.
Correct.
So is there anything that people can do themselves for their own jobs, to help with the search engines, or is that the main tactic, is to use Indeed, use Trovo, use Jobpedia, use these people that are already winning in the search results and get your job well positioned in there. So I guess then we've got the issue of the search engine within the search engine, so that your job is prioritized over and above everybody else's job that's in there. Any thoughts on that, René?
Yeah, so over prioritizing is when you start paying for it. When you have your feeds to the organic results to all the aggregators, you get a certain amount of traffic to the jobs that are relevant, and you want more traffic to, because you are deciding which jobs go into your feed, and it's always the actual results. But then the next step, of course, is to decide, okay, which jobs aren't getting enough traffic, although I'm getting, the most out of the organic postings in these search engines. And then you start tapping into PPC, into pay-per-click advertising, using the sponsored listings, using the advertising and bidding systems of all these search engines, which obviously is a very interesting market, because most employers are not even aware of pay-per-click advertising, apart from the fact that they know that you can pay per click in Google. And maybe Adam wants to add something to that, but I think that you should mainly, if it's about real candidate traction, I think in Google you should use AdWords for more aggregated campaigns, like let's say Java jobs in London, and or IT jobs in London, and you should use the PPC options in the aggregators for more specific ads, like account manager telecom in Manchester.
Okay, that's interesting. And have you done any testing at all to sort of, measure the subtle differences that can, that can be provided by tailoring the actual keyword phrases that you're using there?
Yes, so we do this as a company. We do a lot of paid advertising for a lot of agencies and employers, and we see that it's very hard to manage this all if you do it on job level. But you have to, because different keywords, different types of adverts, different times, different channels have their different outcomes. But of course, of course, it's not just about optimizing the pay-per-click advertising in the search engines. Of course, in the end, it is a lot about writing a great advert, creating a great landing page, making sure people can apply easily, you measure everything, etc. So it is not just one thing you have to do if you want to do it right.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you probably know that we do quite a lot of stuff on the job boards, and we've been doing some measurements around different styles of job advertisement writing, and we've seen massive increases in traffic by using certain techniques, and also looking at some of the stats provided by the job boards as well. As high as 40 viewings for every one application coming through within the job board. So people must be doing something wrong there. Lots of room for improvement. Adam, perhaps you could come in at this point, and for those people that aren't familiar with the main differences between organic and sponsored, the pay-per-click stuff, is there a quick summary you can give us just to clearly explain what those differences are?
Yeah, sure. Actually, in preparation for this, I came across a great article by a guy called David McBee that's recently been made into an infographic, and it's a really good summary of the differences between the two. And he uses the analogy of search engine optimization is a lot like dieting. Both require discipline and patience. Both require ongoing effort. Outside factors can influence results. Achieving the goal doesn't mean you can just quit. There's obviously ongoing stuff to be done. And once the desired results are achieved, so you've got that nice slim figure, of course you've still got to keep on at it. Whereas PPC is a bit more like plastic surgery. The results are fast, almost immediate. It does require larger ongoing financial investment in some cases. There is a degree of control over the results that you can get. The results can be achieved even with some of the older habits. But again, more money, more investment is required to keep that to keep the results looking good. So I think that really summarizes the main salient points between the two. I think it's important to remember that a good strategy should include both. I don't think really there's ever an argument for just choosing one over the other. Of course, it does depend on your bottom line. But yeah, so largely which one you opt for, it really does depend on what you're looking for from the audience.
Okay. So in regards to sponsored listings or pay-per-click then, any tips on sort of, strategy here, relating to targeting, bidding, using multiple engines?
Essentially, we certainly with all our campaigns, we do start. We just take PPC. Keyword is essential, so we need to know what those keywords and key phrases that are going to trigger the right sort of traffic coming through to a site. In terms of PPC, although it is largely considered a shorter term quick win strategy, we actually tend to encourage a slightly longer burn with it. The reason being is that allows you to improve your quality scores, which ultimately will lead to increased rankings, lower cost per clicks, and a better quality of traffic coming through. So that's how we utilise a PPC search. In terms of the different search engines, from a very top line, you're going to get different traffic. A different demographic from the different search engines. Of course, it's no secret that Google is the largest, but Bing also has its place in the market, as does Yahoo as well.
So if a recruiter's got a limited budget and they're recruiting sort of middle management type roles, and they wanted to try one of the search engines, where would you guys? LinkedIn? Would it be Google? Would it be Indeed? Where would you get them to start to have their first?
For me, it would probably be Google, just for the fact that it offers much more of a targeting, offers a much better targeting capability. It's much more controllable. On the whole, we tend to find that especially compared to LinkedIn and Facebook, it does tend to be cheaper. So as an initial investment, it's probably a wiser choice.
Okay. I mean, we've got some of our own experiences of working with Indeed, and although it generated more clicks, we were paying for a lot of clicks that didn't transgress into applications, and I guess that's the risk, is it? When you're an amateur and you're playing around.
Yeah, that's true, and that actually raises a good point that René mentioned earlier. In terms of things like Indeed and aggregators, of course, there's quite a lot of negative press around some of the aggregators out there, in that they deliver low quality traffic through to applying for roles. But what we've got to remember is that these are essentially algorithms that work to deliver the most appropriate job searches. So as recruiters, we've got to make sure that these job specs, these landing pages, all of the content is optimized to ensure that we get the absolute most relevant candidates that can then click and then apply for our roles.
Adam, can I ask a quick question?
René, perhaps you could come in here and talk about.
Sorry, Mark. I should have put my hand up, really. Sorry, can I ask just a quick question? I wonder whether you guys can recommend, or from any perspective, whether you could use content in pay-per-click rather than just putting, say, a job out there, or for any business, rather than putting the direct thing you're selling out there, using content instead to draw people back and then selling to them once they're on the page, so to speak. Is that something you'd recommend, or just get straight down to the point? I think René's got his hand up.
Yeah, so I think in terms of pay-per-click advertising, you should really consider that there's different ways of pay-per-click advertising. So, for example, in a job search engine like Indeed, JobRapid, Simply Hired, etc., people are looking for a job. So they are expecting an ad that is selling a job. So they are doing a very specific search because they know I'm in a huge database of jobs. So my search should be very specific. So if you just give them the relevant result, they are very happy with that. Lead them to that specific job in your website. Make sure they can apply easily, etc. Job done. So this is something where you can, where you have to create ads per job. Do it in all the search engines and completely optimize that. When you go to the other types of search pay-per-click advertising, you're doing it much more content-wise. So, for example, you are wondering where are the people that I'm targeting. So for example, car mechanics could be in a Facebook page, could be liking, so that could be people who are following a car magazine or whatever. So I'm gonna do a PPC campaign in Facebook targeting people that follow that page. Or in Google, when people search for something that is car related, or when they are reading blogs about cars, I want my ads to pop up. So then, of course, it's quite stupid to just put an ad out there that you're looking for a car mechanic. Then you should just make them interested in your company and make sure that there's some nice content from, hey, this is what we do, or these are the projects, or this is something really cool, or we have an in-house day where you can see what we're working at. Are you interested to join us? So that's something completely different. Of course, in the end, it is all about attracting a relevant person and converting him to something, which can be following a company, liking something, saying yes, I'm interested in your job, saying yes, I want to attend a meeting or a in-house day, or yes, I want to apply. But that is the thing that you have to consider. So make it relevant.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like social media strategy.
Yes, of course. It's the same.
Yeah. So, René, I'm going to come back to you again because we had a brief conversation yesterday by email, and you highlighted a couple of areas of interest. You indicated that you'd like to sort of bring us up to speed with recent developments with job boards like LinkedIn and what Monster are doing, with regards to their move into the aggregation space. Something you could bring us up to speed with there?
Yeah, so at the moment, when we talk about pay for performance in terms of online recruitment advertising, we are always talking about the aggregators, Google, and some social channels. But some major players in the market who are, of course, looking at what Indeed, JobRapid, Simply Hired, and all kinds of these companies are doing, have decided to make a move and have announced that they will start aggregating jobs as well. Which means that LinkedIn, Monster will be, mostly doing the same thing as Indeed, JobRapid, etc. are doing, which of course will lead to a point in time where they will be offering you the same options in terms of pay-per-click or pay-per-applicant advertising as the aggregators and Google and social channels are offering you. So being able to tap into PPC channels is going to be much more important than it was yesterday, but it is already very important because most people are just amazed by how much traffic you can attract when you do PPC advertising properly. But that is gonna be bigger and bigger tomorrow.
Interesting.
And maybe something else I would like to add is that so far, people have, of course, done something with search engines, etc. But at this moment, 25% of the traffic from search engines is mobile. So I think a lot of people in the audience are already getting quite some traffic, are seeing that in their analytics, that they get quite some organic traffic from all the job search engines, from Google, etc. But I want them to know that 25% of that traffic is coming from mobile. And I want to ask them, what is the experience of the candidate when he approaches your website through a search engine on his mobile device?
Okay, well, doesn't that depend on where the job advert is being hosted? So if the job advert's being posted onto a job site and then it's subsequently being picked up by Indeed, and that's the route that the candidate takes, then you're really relying on the job board themselves to provide a good mobile experience.
Yeah, so but if you're attracting traffic directly to the content in your own website, you have to consider that your landing pages better be optimized for mobile devices, and your application process is as well, etc.
I totally agree with you, and I think that if you are using Google Analytics to sort of monitor the volumes of traffic that you're getting to your site, and it's of a volume that needs to be addressed, then yes, the site needs to be mobilised. But I would say that most recruitment businesses really rely on applicant traffic coming through from the job boards. Wouldn't you agree?
Sorry,
Just so
Mark.
we're not scaring everybody.
Sorry, Mark, but
Of the 25%, sorry, we've got a slight delay here, René.
yeah.
I think it's because you're further around the globe.
So yeah, I didn't hear your question. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, well, just putting things in perspective, really.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying 25% of applications come through from mobile, but those 25% of applications aren't all coming via the recruiter's own website, are they? I mean, majority of those applications do come through from the job boards themselves. So you're relying on the third parties to make sure that it's mobilised correctly.
No, I'm not saying that 25% of your applications are from mobile. I'm saying that 25% of the traffic that search engines are sending you is mobile traffic. So make sure that you don't you don't disappoint candidates and have them not apply because they can't see your jobs or they can't apply on mobile. So don't miss out on a very huge chunk of the traffic that search engines are delivering to you already.
Okay, but there's an issue there, though, isn't there? If a candidate does find your job through on their mobile device, and that job is advertised on your own website, how do they apply for it? You know, I presume you can create and apply using LinkedIn profile. That's probably easier than creating a CV upload process. If you find the job on a job board, the CV is probably already uploaded, and you can just hit the apply button.
Yeah, of course. But if the traffic is being delivered to your own platform, then you have to make sure that there is something they can use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Adam, any thoughts on mobile and where mobile plays a big role in the search engine space?
Yeah, well, you know, the data suggests that mobile is increasingly becoming a more important channel for recruitment across the board. So if we take it back to have a look at the organic search rankings, mobile and mobile functionality is certainly something that goes towards your site's rankings. So from that point of view, having a useful mobile site that is attached to your site, that's attached to your main site, is very important. Like René was saying, there is a real mixture of so-called mobile optimized sites out there, all with varying different degrees of success. So from our point of view, there are some good ones and there are some bad ones, but I think there's still a way to go in terms of what people are doing mobile-wise to support candidates as they apply for roles.
Okay, good. Louis, we're getting about halfway through. Have you been making notes?
Yeah, well, I haven't been making notes, but we've got a couple of questions in the chat. One that's come through from Google Q&A and one from Twitter. Mark, do you see them? I don't know which one you want to ask.
Okay, yeah, we've got one here. What sort of budget should an agency in a niche space need for search engine? I guess that covers both areas of organic traffic and pay-per-click. So what sort of budget do people need to get started on this, to give it a trial and sort of win themselves over that this is a strategy that they need to pursue? Adam?
Yeah, I'll field that. Again, it depends, and it's like with all these kinds of things, it does depend, of course, on the objectives. As a guideline, depending on the state of the site, what agencies like ours would work to, from an SEO point of view, work towards ensuring all the technical elements are there in place. We then work to content and the functionality of sites in place before moving on then to looking at ways that we could support the organic traffic with PPC traffic. So to answer a budget question, it's a little bit difficult. It's almost like how long is a piece of string. Someone operating in the niche space could look at spending, maybe £10,000 on initially improving technical aspects of the site, reviewing the site against competitors. conducted some keyword research, and then organically and via advertising.
We just lost you at the end there, Adam. Could you just repeat that last sentence?
Yeah, which bit was it that I lost out?
Just the very last
sentence.
Just the last sentence, I think.
The last sentence. Yeah, so it's as I say, anything between £2,000 to £5,000, mixed between PPC and organic traffic as well.
Okay, and how many sort of jobs would that cover, and for how long?
It's a good question. So just to give an example, so if we had a job board, 150 jobs live on it at any one time, we'd be expecting to send across a total of about 16 to 25,000 visits per month for that kind of budget.
Okay, I'm just trying to do some sort of rough calculations on how that compares with traffic that generated by the job boards. I mean, I made some. I wrote a piece a couple of weeks ago, and based on some research with a number of recruitment business owners, we reckon that most recruitment business owners budget for around about £50 advertising per job, but the fulfilment rate is probably less than 15% from direct applications. I mean, recruiters do seem to be obsessed with the fact that they only go for passive candidates, and it's part of sort of justifying, their fees, I guess. But they can get smarter with this, and I can see, René, you've got your hand up to come in a second. This is a way to do it, but it does sound like it's going to be a little bit more costly. But then again, the results would hopefully provide a better return on investment. René?
Yeah, and sorry, just to jump in before René comes back to us, I think that's an interesting point, and it's not something that we've covered, but whilst we work across a range of marketing channels, and we don't particularly suggest doing one over another to clients, one thing that we haven't discussed is that conversion rate. And across the board, what we tend to see is this direct and organic traffic does convert at a higher level than the PPC traffic. That's just a trend that we tend to see. It'd be interesting to see if René is also seeing that trend.
Here's your chance, René.
Yeah, I think as an agency, the question should not be which budget do we need in order to do something in the search engines. I think you should just try different stuff, see what business outcome you get out of the things you're doing. So, for example, try pay-per-click advertising in a few search engines, see how much applicants you get, how much interviews you get, how much second interviews, how much hires you get out of that, and then realize that if you keep investing that kind of money, or that you get that kind of business outcome. So this is a way to grow your business. It is not a way to spend your hard-earned money or something into a black hole. No, this is e-commerce. This is buying applicants and selling them to the employer. So who cares if you're paying £1,000 for one candidate if you can sell him for £15,000? So that is the game you need to start playing. So don't see it as a cost, but see it as acquiring things that you are selling for more money. I think that is the perspective that works best, and I see businesses doing that, and they benefit from it.
Okay, Adam, I'm going to bring you in a second, but I'm just going to respond to that. If you are going to trial anything new, it is important as well to have enough longevity there, because you're not going to get it right first time, are you? You're going to have to sort of learn from the results and fine tune. Everything I know about sort of search engine optimization, pay-per-click, and AdWords, it's all about refinement, split testing. I guess we're going to get onto sort of on-page content and split testing on-page content in a moment, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no way that the first time you're doing this, you're doing it in the best way possible, or that you're going to succeed. So yes, you need to have time, you need to have budget to try different things, to test them against each other in the same time slots, etc. Otherwise, you will be paying too much for the result that you could get cheaper or in a much easier way. But in the end, it is constantly searching for the best way. But it's not about just how much money do I have to spend or what is the cheapest way. No, look at it as a way to grow your business, to get more of the things that you can actually sell to your clients.
Has anybody done any sort of comparisons between the effectiveness and ROI in pay-per-click over job boards? Or does anybody know whether the gap's closing if it's not performing as well? And René, you guys seem to have done a lot of research.
Yeah, so I see a lot of my clients still used. So right now I'm talking. So this is very country specific, because in some countries some job boards still have are very dominant, have traffic that other sources don't have. But for example, in Holland, we are already at a stage where the generic job boards are not competitive anymore to the job aggregators. So I see most of my clients move their budget from generic job boards to aggregators, and they still tend to keep using the niche boards, and of course their advertising in LinkedIn is most of the times also working very well.
I'm just going to come back in there, because we do have our own stats. And we measure, where the application sources come from for all of our jobs. And as you know, we distribute right across the whole job board network.
Yeah.
We're still seeing the generic job boards outperforming the niche boards by at least 3 or 4 to 1, even on niche-related roles. Across various industry sectors where we've used the leading niche board, they very rarely contribute more than 10 to 15% of the total number of applications coming from job boards. So I'm just going to counter that a little bit, René, just to be fair to the big boards, that they're not done and dusted yet.
I completely agree with that. They are not done, but of course, due to the market situation, a lot of companies are not even advertising with most of their jobs. So they're only advertising with their hard-to-fill jobs, etc. So that's also a different game and gives them a different perspective. But I do agree, and in a lot of countries where we are working, for example, in Germany, in the UK, etc., the generic job boards still are playing a huge role, and I advise my clients not to leave them there. But it is different, and it is changing, absolutely.
Well, I want to come back to that point in a minute about the ability to recruit internationally using sort of pay-per-click features, because that's a way we can actually move outside of the restrictions that job boards do have in the UK. Adam, I know you wanted to come in a while back. Are we still on a point that's relevant?
No, in actual fact, Mark, you actually covered. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, you actually covered my points about that of course within the budget a certain amount of testing does need to be accounted for in order to ensure that you can optimize the results moving forward.
Great. Okay, Lou, you wanted to come in with a question?
Yeah, there's a couple on the chat. Do you want me to raise one of these for you, Mark?
Yeah,
we've got one from Bernadette, who's a regular listener. Hi, Bernadette. We've got, how do you combat old content to move your own new content up the search results? Bernadette comes from a niche firm, has only one real competitor apparently, but there's a lot of old, out-of-date content that are coming up above their own, and I think you'd like some advice on that, if that's possible, guys. Thanks.
Right, so this is online. So this is on-site content, natural search, I guess.
Yeah.
Shouldn't Hummingbird, the latest algorithm from Google, deal with that? Adam or René, who wants to come in?
Yeah, I'd say that. Just to answer Bernadette's first question, one of the simplest ways to combat the need to refresh useful content for candidates on the site is very simply by setting up a blog. That allows you to then generate useful, keyword-rich content on a regular basis that can be uploaded to the site on a weekly, daily, and monthly basis, and that ensures then that from a content refresh point of view that you're always churning out useful stuff for candidates to find, and that's going to have a really, really strong impact on your organic search results. In terms of the Hummingbird update that you mentioned there, of course, Hummingbird looks to improve so-called conversational searching, so looking a bit more around the context of the search words that are being used. So again, this is quite an important factor when considering content on site, making sure that it makes sense to the user, not only to the search engine that might be trawling for it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on user experience with Hummingbird as well, you know, and if people are going to old sites that are no longer active, they're going to bounce off, and eventually those ratings are going to come down, and those sites will stop coming up in results, I guess. So
yeah, that's
good. There's for goodness, Bernadette should start to stop coming up, and she can do some proactive stuff to try and raise her own profile by blogging. René, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, so indeed, I think in the end it is about writing better content, but in the end, of course, it's also about technique. So if your website is loading faster, especially on mobile, etc., Google will give you a better listing in their results. So it is a combination, I guess, of course, writing better content in the end wins. But it's also about the technique of your is your mobile is it mobile optimized, or and how fast does your website load?
Yeah, very important. If it's loading slowly, people will bounce off anyway. They vote with their feet. Louis, any other questions on there that you want to bring that have been posted up?
There was another one from Twitter that Louise raised from @Avitech. It's how can recruiters maximize job listing sites, online channels, social media to find candidates if they're not listing jobs?
Did you get that? What's he actually asking there?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
How can recruiters maximize job listing sites on social media if they're not listing jobs? I'm not quite sure what the question is. Anybody?
If they're still watching, maybe they want to clarify that a bit. But I'll tweet.
All right, yeah.
Yep.
Repost the question for us. Look, a moment ago we just touched on international posting. I'm guessing this is a huge advantage for recruiters if they want to move outside of you know, the job boards and get exposure internationally for their clients. Pay-per-click. No barriers geographically. Anybody want to come in on this point?
Yeah, so there are barriers. The first barrier is that so in Google there are almost no barriers. So you can just say, okay, I want my job to be exposed to people in this geographical area. When you look at the aggregators, it's a bit different because aggregators have a search engine per country. So they have .co.uk, .nl, .de, etc. And it is not allowed to. So, for example, let's say you are in Belgium and you want to recruit from the UK, then you can't just put your adverts into the .co.uk website of Indeed or JobRapido. So what you actually can do is they have a special thing for that, which is called relocation jobs. So it is actually possible to do that, but it's not. So you will have to speak with them about that, etc. But it is technically now possible to do that.
Very easy from a user perspective.
Yeah, so for a user in a search engine, so for example, when they will be looking at, let's say I'm in the UK and I'm saying I want to be a sales director in e-commerce, and when there's a job that will be promoted in the sponsored listings of that search engine, then I'll just see a relocation job. This company in Belgium is looking for a sales director e-commerce, and then you can just go to that job in the website of that company. So it works the same.
We're going to come back to the question that was asked before. I think we've got it summarised and a little bit clearer. How can recruiters maximise different social media platforms, i.e. using Google Plus as a recruitment and advertising tool? So, I mean, we use social share and we push our jobs out to Google Plus to get them indexed. Any thoughts on that? Do you want to offer any explanations around why that could be useful? How they should use Google Plus as part of their social strategy?
Yeah, Mark, I think you hit it on the nail on the head. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. We're sort of moving across into more of a social media strategy as opposed to flat advertising of jobs. As an agency, we tend to find that the best use of social media channels such as Google Plus is via posting out content that depicts what it's like to work for a company, what a role is about, the qualities and the values that the recruiters are looking for. And that's really where we tend to find that we get the best candidates coming through from. Of course, PPC advertising in those frameworks is still important, and it still does capture a great audience. But we do tend to lean more towards that, posting out content is a better way to use these channels to attract candidates.
Okay. Can we get any examples of that? If anybody's not quite sure what you mean, are we talking about writing an article about that type of role, talking about the challenges those people might face, creating interesting content in that sort of way?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then sticking the link to the job on the bottom?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to give you an example of something that we did recently with LinkedIn, we worked with an engineering client to attract a very, very niche for a very, very niche vacancy. The way that we went about it is we actually conducted a Q&A session offline, but then posted the results into specific groups within LinkedIn. We actually made this completely non-branded, so the people reading the posts weren't aware that it came from this specific company. What we were looking for were people to comment, to post, to share, really get engaged with some of the questions that we'd found the answers for, and to continue the conversation on further. After about 2 or 3 weeks of continuing these conversations and posting out new content based on the Q&A session, that's when we dropped out the link to the actual live vacancy. And what we found was that the engagement levels were much higher because people were following this and they were getting much more engaged with the conversation about the role and the vacancy and what it meant for an engineer to be involved in that sector. So that's an example of some of the different content that we could use to attract for a role.
We're getting pretty clever now with stuff that you can do to try and pull those passive candidates in. But I mean, the reality is most recruiters don't know or haven't been shown how to do that, and will they be supported by their employers to spend the time doing that sort of activity when it's an unproven entity? So what's the route here? Do people go and find people like you guys to go and do it for them? Is that a cost-effective way of getting started?
Short answer, yes.
Right. You're selling yourself well.
Yeah,
I teed you up nicely there.
So, no,
I'm get a better opening than that one, I can tell you now.
You're completely right. I think it's fair to say, and this isn't necessarily a rule across the board, but certainly engagement techniques like that, we'd recommend them to support other activity that's going on. We would not suggest by any stretch of the imagination that is the sole activity that you should be doing, because you're right, it's not going to give you that proven, it's not going to give you a certain set amount of applications or candidates that are coming through. So that is where you do need to work with someone who knows what they're doing, someone who can really invest a lot of time working with those groups within the social media channels to get the best results. So you're absolutely right, Mark. It is better to use someone that can spend the time and the effort to get those results back.
René, I'm going to come to you now. What do you think that recruitment companies of the future will be recruiting somebody specifically to do this type of activity? Do you think that's going to become a natural part of the makeup of a recruitment business, to have someone sitting there creating content, managing pay-per-click, doing SEO-related activities?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. If you look at companies that are selling products, they have people that do the same thing to attract potential clients, make sure that they get their newsletters and all that kind of stuff. It's exactly the same process. So yes, I do think that companies will have these people inside. You already see a lot of employers who do this. For example, at L'Oreal, they have their own digital talent acquisition lab, where they have even employed a computer engineer. Who would have thought of that a few years ago? Where they try all new online channels. For example, they are now trying Jelly, the new app where you can ask questions and people give answers. L'Oreal is asking questions, people answer, and because of that they create a pipeline, and it perfectly works. And I think that if you have, especially if you're a specialty or a niche agency where you really want to connect with a certain type of person or a certain niche of people, engineers or developers, etc., then of course it makes sense to build up that for yourself. And it's also very interesting because you will be amazed by what you can actually learn from the people you are constantly hunting in old school ways. If you just listen to them, look at where they are going, what they are doing, with who they are communicating, which kind of things they like, you'll be able to be very successful in talent attraction. And this is not something that you can do for just one job that you had to fill yesterday. This is strategic. This is long term. But it's the same thing in sales. Do you want to cold call 100 people every day, or do you want to be an interesting person, post relevant content to them, engage with them, and then slowly create great relationships with these people that are in the end very interesting from a financial perspective.
It strikes me recruiters are going to have to become more marketing savvy, to be effective in that way. And also, I think that type of strategy only works if recruiters become very niche as well, because you can't follow everybody. If you're going to follow people, they've got to be, from a specific demographic. I'm going to come to a question now. The same questions appeared about 3 times in different guises. It's about duplicate content. Now, Google always penalised people in the past if you were copying content and reposting it. Then it went through a phase of allowing you to repost content if it was considered news or informative or educational. Do you guys know what the current status is with regards to duplicate content? Does Google penalise you if you're repeating content, or does the result go to the site with the best relationship with Google? Adam, René, about time for you to come back in.
Yeah, so as far as we're aware, yeah, of course, duplicate content on a site is still frowned upon, shall we say, when using content for content marketing purposes. So when it's appearing on other sites, it's important to remember that best practice anyway. It shouldn't be simply copy and pasted onto a different site. It's got to work for that audience. So it does need to be altered. It does need to be tailored, and there shouldn't really be instances where the same article is being just churned out across multiple different sites. It does need to be worked on, and it does need to be it's useful for the audience.
Google does categorize content though, doesn't it? I mean, if it's news or if it's I don't know, there are certain contexts in which Google will allow you to produce duplicate content on your site without penalising you. I mean, I heard that the part of Hummingbird's new release was that they will actually promote the results to the site that has the best record with Google, for the best customer experiences. Is that right? If two companies have used the same content, even if I was the initiator, Google may still drive me to another site if that has a high ranking.
Sorry,
so yeah, that's true.
Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. In the end, Google cares about their customer, which is the people that is using their search engine. They don't care about in the end where the money goes or where the visitor goes. They want to give their customer, which is you searching for something, the best experience possible. What I find an interesting question is that I see that one of the people who asked the question on duplication, and maybe Adam, you can answer that question, is if you have one platform and on that platform there is duplicative content, should you delete some of that content?
It's specifically to press releases, I think, on that question.
It's a good question. It's an interesting. I'll be honest with you. It's not something that I know the answer to, unfortunately. However, I'm happy to get back to. Apologies, I can't see their name. That person with an answer.
Stephen Rothberg asked that question. I mean, I have had this question posed to myself, and I have asked the question of SEO experts in the past. I do believe that type of content won't be penalised. So I wouldn't think it was something to worry about. If it was off-site content that was creating links, I'd be more worried about that.
Our site got penalised, got a Google penalty a while back due to backlinks from press release sites and directories and so forth. I managed to remove it after much grovelling and hard work, but they didn't complain about the occasional duplicated article on the website. For instance, with these Hangouts, we put it on the blog, and then I also put the videos on the Hangouts with the same description, and that doesn't seem to be an issue. I think it's about essentially Google looking for, sorry, the videos that you mark, isn't it? I think Google are looking for just honest content and not any trickery. They're just looking for organic, useful content that people will read and find useful. What I've struggled with is a lot recently, so we're just moving on to generic SEO at the moment, but what I've struggled with is apparently linking back to sites using the keywords you're trying to optimize for. That's the way everyone used to do things, and now that's a penalty. But it does seem with the keywords we're looking at, the sites still leading the way are the ones that are using this old technique. It might have just been they haven't been caught up with yet. But anyway, that's my piece.
I think if people are unsure about whether or not they should be linking keyword phrases in content, then they shouldn't be doing it unless they've got somebody that can actually confirm to them that it's not going to be penalised.
As far as I'm aware, all they want now is you either link your company name or you just put a normal link in.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong if you provide good content. Stick your company website link on the bottom of it. Then you're not going to be penalised for that, and play safe. Well, listen, guys, we're coming to the end of the show. I want to wrap up by giving both of you an opportunity to sort of talk about the future in regards to search engines. Any direction you want to go here, whether it's the technology, whether it's what recruiters should be doing, just give us a quick summary looking forward, what we can expect to see. Starting with you, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on the question of my advice to recruiters moving forward, one of the topics that we did mention that we might discuss today that unfortunately I think we've run out of time for is just having a bit of a think about where you're directing your traffic to. Of course, the best place to get them to is to a page where they can immediately apply for a job. That isn't always possible. A lot of the companies that we work with, of course, might redirect traffic away to either client sites or to a different ATS system, but this is really going to be a key feature for improving conversion rates and also candidate quality. So in my opinion, that's something that people really will need to pay a big focus on, is where you are directing all this very valuable and useful traffic to.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Adam. René, you've got 60 seconds to wrap up.
Okay, yeah, I think the future is that recruiters catch up with what consumers are already doing. So yes, the consumers are already using search engines. Google is already penalizing your website if it's not ready for mobile or not fast enough. Be aware of these things. Be aware of how much people are where, what kind of devices they use, where they land when you get found. And how they can convert to an applicant or something else, and make sure that you get the most out of that.
Thanks, René. Thanks, Adam. That was a really good conversation today. Some really useful stuff that came out from you guys. Do you want to summarise at all, Louis, and perhaps brings up to speed what our next hangout is?
Yeah, I'll just talk about the next hangout briefly. That's in 2 weeks' time, 2nd July, 1 p.m. BST as usual, and that's Jerry Crispin, who's the founder of Career X Roads. He helps, along with others, to organise the Candidate Experience Awards. René, I think you were there with me at the last one, but they're very useful, a lot of useful information, and he's going to be talking about the candidate experience from the corporate side, but it might be interesting to get a sort of recruitment agency view on that as well, and that is in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks, Louis. Thanks everybody for your time today.
Cheers, guys. Really useful. We'll be sending around the usual blog follow-up that Louise puts together, just summarising today's discussions, linking to any useful articles and information, and that will be going on the UK Recruiter blog, and we'll be emailing it out to everyone who's on the Recruiter Hangout list, which you can sign up to on our website. So, thanks, guys. Great stuff.
Thank you.